Why doesn't Michael Jackson drink coffee? Because he prefers tea.
A blind woman got on a bus. Sadly, all the seats were taken. A man noticed that no one else on the bus was willing to give up their seat for the blind woman, so he kindly guided her to his seat and took a standing spot. As the bus started up, the man frowned at the others for their selfishness. Later that day, the man came home in tears, covered in bruises. "What's the matter?" asked the man's wife. "I lost my job as a bus driver."
What do you call someone with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Ambidextrose.
My fear of palindromes is really starting to affect my life, so I asked the doctor if he could prescribe me anything. The Astard gave me Xanax.
How do you tell the X of an ant? Drop it in water. If it sinks, girl ant. Why is helium so expensive these days? Because of all the inflation.
Pre means before and post means after. Pre means before and post means after. To use both at the same time would be preposterous. Seamus has a broken leg and his buddy Paddy comes over to see him. Paddy asks, "How you doing?" Seamus says, "Okay, but do me a favor mate, run upstairs and get me slippers, me feet are freezing." Paddy goes upstairs and sees Seamus's gorgeous 19-year-old twin daughters lying on the bed. He says, "Your dad sent me up here to have X with both of you." They say, "Get away with ya." "Prove it." Paddy shouts downstairs, "Seamus, both of them." Seamus shouts back, "Of course both of them. What's the point of uckin' one?"
What do you call a man with a knife in each leg? You call him a ucking ambulance.
Jesus died for your sins. But did he stay dead? At most, he lost a weekend for your sins.
Paddy rings his new girlfriend's doorbell, holding a big bunch of flowers. She opens the door, sees the flowers, and drags him in. She lies back on the couch, pulls up her skirt, rips her knickers off and says, "This is for the flowers." "Don't be silly," says Paddy. "You must have Avis somewhere."
What did the Indian kid say to his parents when he left for school? "Mum, bye. I accidentally said, Gesundheit, after my crush sneezed." Now she's staring at the bushes wondering who said that.
A Canadian visits America and gets held at gunpoint by a stranger. The stranger says, "Give me all your money and I'll let you live." The Canadian replies gleefully, "Oh, you must be what they call a doctor." Blonde. There was a blonde who found herself sitting next to a lawyer on an airplane. The lawyer just kept bugging the blonde, wanting her to play a game of intelligence. Finally, the lawyer offered her 10-to-1 odds, and said every time the blonde could not answer one of his questions, she owed him $5, but every time he could not answer hers, he'd give her $50.00. The lawyer figured he could not lose. The blonde reluctantly accepted. The lawyer first asked, "What is the distance between the Earth and the nearest star?" Without saying a word, the blonde handed him $5. Then the blonde asked, "What goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes back down the hill with 4 legs?" Well, the lawyer looked puzzled. He took several hours, looking up everything he could on his laptop, and even placing numerous air-to-ground phone call stream to find the answer. Finally, angry and frustrated, he gave up and paid the blonde $50.00. The blonde put the $50 into her purse without comment, but the lawyer insisted, "What is the answer to your question?" Without saying a word, the blonde handed him $5.
A guy was boarding a plane when he heard that the Pope was on the same flight. "This is exciting," the guy thought. "I've always been a big fan of the Pope. Perhaps I'll be able to see him in person." Suddenly, the man realized his seat was right next to the Pope. In the beginning, the gentleman was too shy to speak to His Holiness. Shortly after takeoff, the Pope took a crossword puzzle out of his carry-on bag and began writing in the answers. It crossed the gentleman's mind that if the Poppy got stuck, he'd ask him for assistance. "This is fantastic," he mused. "I'm really good at crosswords." Almost as if Providence struck, the Pope turned to man and said, "Excuse me, but do you know a 4-letter word referring to a woman that ends in unt?" The 3 cardinals behind, in front of, and beside him shrunk down in their seats, as far as possible, all looking for something on the floor. The gentleman was in morbid shock. He couldn't breathe. He thought within himself, thought deeper, longer, for a plausible answer, and after almost a minute, the dark clouds of evil parted in his mind and the light shined through. Turning to the Pope, the gentleman said with reverence and politeness, "I believe, Your Holiness, that the word you're looking for, I sant, of course." The Pope mused, not taking his gaze off the crossword. "You wouldn't happen to eraser, would you?"
"I stabbed a vampire, beat zombies to death and killed devil itself." My wife rushes through the room and shouts, "You, RESUPPOSED," to give them candies, Frank.
What kind of ex does a priest have? None. I've heard that hookers don't fart. They do, little prostitutes.
A woman asked me to come back to her place for a nightcap. After a couple of drinks, she asks me to get undressed. I took off my shoes and socks and she screamed, "What happened to your toes?" Me, when I was a kid I had toelio. Her, do you mean polio? Me, no girl, look at my toes. It was toelio. Then I took off my pants. She screamed, "What happened to your..." Me, I had measles pretty bad when I was a kid. Her, don't you mean measles? Me, no woman. Look at my knees. It was measles. Then I took off my underwear and she screamed, "Oh me, you poor thing." Me, what's wrong, baby? Her, you're lucky to be alive. I see you had smallpox too. I went for a job interview as a blacksmith yesterday. He asked me if I had ever shoot a horse, and I said no, but I once told a donkey to UCK off.
A man is obsessed with trains. A man is obsessed with trains, so he finally steals one and immediately crashes it, killing several people. At the trial, the man is found guilty of multiple murders and is sentenced to death. Before he is executed, he is offered a last meal, and asks for a single banana, which is given to him. The next day, he is led to the electric. They strap him in, pull the switch, and nothing happens. There has never been a failure before. Since you cannot punish a person twice for the same crime, the court is forced to let him go free. Within a week's time, naturally, the man, who is obsessed with trains, goes and steals another one. He doesn't care that he can't drive it or that he failed catastrophically before. He is obsessed with trains and his only desire is to operate one. Before, he crashes it, and kills several people. Again, he stands trial, and again, he is sentenced to death, showing no remorse, only delight that he got to operate the train. His last meal request is again a single banana. When he goes to the chair, the executioner pulls the switch, but nothing happens. As before, he goes free again. The train-obsessed maniac, once more on the loose, wastes no time in hijacking a train and crashes it. His trial is swift, as this has already happened twice, and he is again sentenced to death. They ask him what he would like for his last meal. A single banana. Oh, no you don't, you son of a itch. We're on to you, now. We know all about your little banana trick, and you're not escaping this time. The guards refuse his request, and instead serve him a standard last meal of steak, potatoes, and apple pie. The next morning they strap him into the electric chair, pull the switch, and nothing happens. Did you give him the banana? Demands the head guard. No, sir. He asked for the banana but we didn't give it to him, we swear, says one of the guards. Turns out the banana had nothing to do with anything. And #X200B. He was just a really bad conductor.
The Pope is on a visit to the U.S., riding in the back of a limo. The Pope is on a visit to the U.S., riding in the back of a limo. The driver asks him if he needs anything. Well, to tell you the truth, says the Pope, they never let me drive at the Vatican, and I'd really like to drive today. I'm sorry, but I cannot let you do that. I'd lose my job. And what if something happens? The driver. Who's going to tell? The Pope smiled. So the Papazat at the wheel, while his driver got in the back. They were speeding down the road, when a policeman pulled them over. He called headquarters reporting a speeding limo. The chief instructs, well, what are you doing? Just pull him over. The policeman responds, I'm afraid I can't do that, sir. There is someone very important in this car. The chief asked, who is in the limo? The mayor. The policeman told him, no, someone more important than the mayor. Then the chief asked, did you pull over a congressman again? The policeman answered, no, someone more important than a congressman. The chief finally asked, is it the president? The policeman answered, no, someone even more important than the president. This made the chief very angry and he demanded, now who could be important than the president? The policeman responded, the hell if I know, but the Pope's driving. She has been shot up. Guy. Doctor, my girlfriend is pregnant, but we always use protection, and the rubber never broke. How is it possible? Doctor, let me tell you a story. There was once a hunter who always carried a gun wherever he went. One day he took out his umbrella instead of his gun and went out. A lion suddenly jumped in front of him. To scare the lion, the hunter used the umbrella like a gun and shot the lion. Then it died. Guy, nonsense. Someone else must have shot the lion. Doctor, good. You understood the story. Next patient, please.